Hi, my name is Michel Guimond. I'm 60 years old. I'm from Montreal. I was born and raised in Montreal. I'm the oldest of 5 kids from a working dad and a stay-at-home mom. I come from a very, how would I say, not regular family, in the sense that my dad, after a few years, after all the kids were born, well, my dad just left for prison. And when my dad came out of prison, he still continued to be an outlaw. And the people, his friends, I would come home, and I had uncles. And those uncles, there was a newspaper called Allo Police in Quebec. With that newspaper was just a newspaper about crime, just crimes. And my dad always bought that newspaper. But my mom always said, put the newspaper away. I don't want the kids to look at that newspaper. And I always heard my mom saying that. I was always wondering why. Until the day that my dad left it on the table. And I just opened it and looked. And then I saw 2 of my uncles in it. One with the numbers across his chest. And one dead on the sidewalk. I closed the newspaper. I said, okay, I'm not looking at that anymore. Going to school, I was a pretty good student, but I didn't quite like, because I was a dreamer. And so I wasn't good at reciting stuff, at learning stuff. Even I can remember in our days, every morning we would have to recite the one prayer. And until grade 7, I still don't know the words of that prayer. Because I always said, because I used to argue with my teachers a lot too. I said, if God is everywhere, so that means I don't have to learn a prayer to talk to him or her. I can just stop talking. In 6th grade, we had to organize a dance at the school. And there's one guy in my class, his parents were ballroom dance teachers. So they brought a lot of people with them. And they were dancing. I've always loved moving and dancing. I was behind the table and dancing a little bit. So that woman came to get a soft drink. And she said, oh, you got rhythm? Do you dance and everything? I said, well, no, not really. Well, with my mom and my sisters in the living room, but beside that, no. So she said that she had a class for kids on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, starting in January. And that was in December that we did that. So she wrote down on a piece of paper her name, phone number, and she gave that to me. She said, give that to your mom, ask her to call me. I started in '69, ballroom dancing, and I never stopped. So I danced as an amateur in junior, and then adult, and then I turned pro. And when I turned pro, I started teaching. So I started teaching, I was about 11 years old. At one point, I kind of wanted more stage than ballroom, because stage is a little bit less restrictive. And it was way more fun. But I still stuck with ballroom. But then I got we did a TV show. And it was kind of one of those talk shows that they invite somebody to sing or to dance. So that day was a dancer. On that show, there was a woman that did shows on cruise ship. And her husband was a cruise ship director. So they saw us dance. And then they approached us after the show. Have you ever thought of going on a cruise ship and performing and everything? And I went, oh my God, to perform, just dancing? So I signed up. So the first day that I met the cruise director, so we got into a ship, totally new. So we all gather into the ballroom to talk about the show and blah, blah, blah. And so the cruise director, he started talking about that. He goes, okay, I'm going to go to the office. And he says to me, he said, can you come with me? I said, sure. So I went with him because he wanted to ask me what kind of dancing we were doing and how we were going to be able to, because now what he had to do is to build the show. So we had 1 week to build the show. So he goes, okay, I have no chairs, I have nothing right now, but let's just sit on a few boxes and talk. So after 2 days, he says to me, he said, well, I really need my office, but I don't know where to start. I said, well, if you don't mind, I can help with that. He goes, would you? So, oh, sure, I can. I come from the family that I come from. I can organize stuff. So I got all the boxes out. I said, well, give me 2 days. And 2 days later, he came in. The office was set up. So he says to me, he said, all right, then, now you're going to be my assistant cruise director. I said, yes. I was kind of a Julie from Love Boat that organized everything with her clipboard. That was me, walking on the deck, saying hi to everybody with my clipboard. I felt so important. And then at night, whoop, change, and then just go and dance. And this is when I discovered that I could sing. I have to say the words in French, and then they have to repeat it. And nobody on that group, in that group, were able to speak French. So I said, of course I can. So I went over the words and everything, and they have the track saying, but without knowing, I started saying the words, but in the right pitch. And I started singing them. So one afternoon, the cruise director came, and he goes, you didn't tell me you could sing? I said, because I didn't know. So he goes, well, let's give it a try, because the other guy was really, he sucked at it. He couldn't. So he goes, well, that number is yours now. But after a while, I remember one morning getting up, having my cup of coffee, walking outside, and I looked and I went, okay, I'm tired that the scenery always changes. So I worked a little bit in Montreal teaching, but then after that I started traveling. So I started teaching like Winnipeg, Calgary, Regina. And after maybe a year or two, I wasn't teaching in Montreal anymore. So that's when I moved to Calgary to work. I lived there for 2 years, but it was way too much of a redneck for me. I couldn't live there. The second year, the first year that I was there, I started coming to Vancouver to work, to teach. And I just fell in love with the city. And I've been here for 24 years. And this is home. My mom still hoped that one day I'm gonna move back home. And I said, okay, maybe. I say maybe just because I have to please her, but it's not happening. I'm gonna stay here forever. So I went to see 4 shows. And there was one, the Rainy City Gay Men's Chorus. Loved it, because they did song from movies, song from shows, from Broadway, but they made it look ridiculous because nobody was that good. But I said, that's the group that I'm going to be in because of the humor attached to it. So started in September, so I was part of the tenors, and we're starting to do a number, and there's movement in it. So everybody was telling me, okay, so there'll be a bit of movement, don't be worried, take your time and everything, but they don't know I'm a dancer. They have no idea, I didn't tell them. And of course, I dance it, so I'm in the back though. I'm in the back. So choreographer said, oh, you can dance? I went, yes, I can. So the guy said, yeah, but you didn't tell us. You didn't ask. I'm here to sing, and you want to move. Okay, you can move. I can move, so I can dance. So then after that, from the back, I went in the front. And then that brought all the bitches out. But I had 7 years with them. Now it was starting to be repetitive a little bit. And we were not learning anything super new, and we were not improving sound-wise and technique. So I wanted to join a group of people that are more experienced than me. I need to learn something. So I went in audition for the King and I. The group that I was with, oh my God. It was so much experience there working with them. And I love, because every single time I would sit and I would listen. I did exactly the same as I'm always telling my students. If you're not engaged in something, you sit, you shut up and listen. Because this is when there's a little piece of information that can, maybe it's not addressed to you, but it could be useful one day. 2 years after that, I started at Capilano University teaching, doing that 3 weeks. And I mean, this is, to me in my year, that's always the highlight of my year. Because I love working with performers. The energy is there for the right reason. And that's what I love doing. My dad, I was always kind of estranged from him. Because he's a redneck. Totally redneck. So me, being gay and wanting to be part of the arts and singing and dancing, I gotta say that my dad, I never heard my dad said he was proud of me. But at the same time too, I didn't expect it because I knew him. He's a hockey guy, a baseball guy, a gun guy. I don't do any of that. And in my family, I'm the only one in the arts. My dad passed away 22 years ago. It was the first death in my family. I was always afraid of having one of my parents die because I always have the feeling that I'm gonna die of sadness. You don't die of sadness. You just cry until you have no more sadness in you. And then it stops. But then it can come back. You cry some more, and then it stops. So I'm not afraid of my mom dying, of my brother and sisters dying, or my friends dying. And I'm just going to be sad, I'm going to cry. And then life will just resume. It's the same like for me, I'm not afraid of dying. In a sense, I'm not looking forward to it, no. But I'm looking forward to find out what happens after.